Hi everybody, this is Avrohom Czapnik from the Jewish Learning Exchange in Los Angeles. I hope everybody had a meaningful Yom Kippur. This week's Torah portion is Parshat Ha'azinu, and next week already begins the very beautiful holiday of Succos. And one of the reasons why we live in huts during the holiday of Succos is because when the Jewish people were traveling in the desert for 40 years before they entered the land of Israel after they left Egypt, they had divine clouds that protected them and also guided them. It was the first GPS, God positioning system, where God told them where to go based upon the clouds. Now, we don't have clouds giving us a GPS, and we don't have clouds protecting us. However, we have to look at that sometimes there's a divine cloud, so to speak, that's telling us, leading us in the right way. And this relates to this week's Torah portion. There's a verse in the Parsha that says the following: Hatzur tam pa'olei ki kol derech of mishpat. The rock perfect is his work, for all of his paths are justice, which is a concept which needs more elaboration, but God's ways are just, and the righteous will be rewarded for the good, maybe not right away, but will be rewarded, and even the wicked for the good they do will be rewarded. But there's also a concept that God knows what he's doing and he's in charge. And there's a concept called hashgacha pratis, which means divine providence, where God puts things in situations for things to work out or not work out. And we don't believe in the concept of coincidence. We believe that everything is divinely orchestrated. And just as an example, we'll call Mrs. Friedman and her daughter were going to the Kotel, to the Western Wall, to pray. It was the day before her daughter's wedding. And they waited for the number 2 bus in Jerusalem to take them to the Kotel. And that night, for some reason, the bus wasn't running. So people were trying to take taxis and this and that. So Mrs. Friedman and her daughter saw a car, and they said, "We're heading to the Kotel. Do you have room?" And they said, "Yeah, we're going there too. Come." And they made room for them, and they gladly took them along. And they were talking along the way. And this family, we'll call them, let's say, the Schwartzes, they said, "Oh, we came from in America because we wanted to pray that our daughter should find the proper match." And so Mrs. Friedman said, "What are you looking for? What type of person, family?" And she described it. And Mrs. Friedman said, "Mrs. Schwartz, there's a young man who used to come to us and eat by us on Shabbos. He was our Shabbos guest many times, and we were very impressed with him, and he seemed to fit the bill. So if you're interested for me to try to see if I could set it up, please let me know." Well, they go to the Kotel. "Thank you so much for giving us a lift. It's very nice of you." They didn't know each other before, but the concept of chesed, loving kindness. And they parted ways. X amount of time later, Mrs. Schwartz calls Mrs. Friedman, "I want you to know, Mazel Tov, our daughter is engaged." And it was very surprising, she said, "And the fellow she's engaged to is the one you suggested." It says, "What do you mean? You didn't call me." "You're right. Let me tell you what happened. What happened was when we left the States to come to Israel to pray on behalf of our daughter, we had 3 suggestions of 3 different fine religious young men as potential dates for our daughter. And we were going to do the research and this and that, but Hashem, we decided we're going to down and say, "Hashem, please send us a sign, which is the one we should." They all sound very nice. They seem like very refined Torah boys, young men. They sound very refined. We don't know which one to go to. Give us a sign. And then when you came into the car and you suggested that boy, that's one of the 3 boys. And we looked at it as a sign from Hashem that that must be the one we have to check out first. And we did. And Baruch Hashem, thank God, they're now happily engaged. So the Almighty is doing and coordinating things in the world, and we just have to open our eyes a little bit. We sometimes don't realize it. I remember many years ago there was a story about a man who was at work on a Friday, and the forklift fell in Los Angeles, and the forklift fell on him, and he was stuck. Excuse me, he was stuck, and he couldn't get out. And there happened to be a closure on the freeway, and a worker drove by and said, "Hey, why is that forklift in a weird position?" And it was a long weekend. No one was coming back there, and he came in and he saved the guy. And the man's wife said, "Wow, what a miracle that the freeway happened to be closed and you happened to be there." And the man who was underneath it didn't know. Well, it was just a coincidence. It says no, but she was right. The wife was right that it really was divinely orchestrated that the freeway should be closed and he should happen to drive by, who happened to be a worker there, and to see it there. And therefore, we should open our eyes and see that God is involved in our lives and makes things happen. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but it's ultimately for the good. And we sometimes get to see that, and sometimes we don't. But we should know that God's in charge. Have a very wonderful Shabbos, a very happy and healthy and joyous Succos holiday. All the best.